in your eyes, see the thorn twist in your side. I wait for you. Sleight of hand and twist of fate. On a bed of nails, she makes me wait. And I wait without you. With or without you. With or without you. Through the storm we reach the shore. You give it all, but I want more. And I'm waiting for you. With or without you. With or without you, I can't live. With or without you. And you give yourself away. And you give yourself away. And you give, and you give, and you give yourself away. My hands are tied. My body bruised. She got me with nothing to win and nothing left to lose. And you give yourself away. And you give yourself away. And you give, and you give, and you give yourself away. With or without you. With or without you. I can't live. With or without you. With or without you. With or without you. I can't live. With or without you. With or without you. Every breath you take and every move you make, every bond you break, every step you take, I'll be watching you. Every single day and every word you watching you. Every smile you fake, every claim you stick, I'll be watching you. tell me what you want, tell me what you want. Tell me what you want, tell me what you want. Anywhere to find you.
All the night is my world. City lights, painted girl. In a day, nothing matters. It's the night.
French forces hand over a military base in Timbuktu back to Mali, the latest step in France's drawdown of troops in the country. Some of the latest COVID news. France expands its coronavirus vaccination drive to children ages 5 to 11 at risk of developing severe forms of COVID, while in Spain and Greece, all children in that age group are now eligible for their jab. And the U.S. surpasses 800,000 COVID deaths, a milestone described as tragic by President Joe Biden. You're watching France 24. Thanks for joining us here on the program. I'm Claire Rush. The French flag lowered, the Malian flag raised at a military base in Timbuktu. After a nearly 9-year deployment, French officers have left the base in the Malian city, handing over the keys in a ceremony on Tuesday. It's the latest step in France's drawdown of troops in the country, coming after the handover of other military bases this year, including in the northern towns of Kidal and Tessalit. But the departure from Timbuktu is particularly symbolic. That's where former French President François Hollande marked the start of France's military intervention in the country in a bid to curb jihadist violence. Meanwhile, President Emmanuel Macron is expected to travel to Mali in the coming days, as France 24's Cyril Payan has learned in his reporting from the capital Bamako.
Well, it's still very early here in Bamako in central Mali, but I can tell you that the news is spreading very fast here that Emmanuel Macron indeed should come in the coming days here in Bamako to meet the head of the military junta, and which is quite a breakthrough regarding the relationship between France and Mali in the past month, when Emmanuel Macron in June announced that he will resize or reshape the military operation, the entire jihadist military operation here in Sahel and especially in Mali. He was accused by the authorities here to abandon, quote, Mali while the problems were still remaining on the ground. So it looks very much that an explanation face to face. This is very much what Macron is expected to do. He was rumored, the French president, to come to Gao before. I mean, in 2 or 3 days. Gao is 1,500 kilometers up north from where I'm standing in Mali. This is the biggest operational military base from the French army with 2,000 soldiers here. This base will remain, and he was very, very strongly rumored to visit the troops. Now it's very different. It's much more political, as the trip is scheduled to come down to Bamako to meet the authorities here, maybe also to explain what is at stake in terms of anti-jihadist fighting, but also to explain what will be the next term, the next conditions of the French military position and engagement here in Mali and Sahel.
Cyril Payan reporting there. Greece and Spain are expanding their coronavirus vaccination drives this Wednesday to include children between the ages of 5 and 11. Here in France, children in that age group at risk of developing a serious form of COVID will also be eligible starting Wednesday. This comes as more and more countries authorize the jab for children. Lauren Bain with an overview.
In September, Cuba became the first country to allow children to receive a COVID-19 jab. Since then, several countries have followed suit. The U.S. began its rollout for children to receive the vaccine in the early fall. President Joe Biden expressed optimism with the U.S.'s headway.
And America is making progress. 200 million with 2 shots, and more kids vaccinated than any country on earth.
More than 20 countries have authorized shots for 5 to 11-year-olds. Canada and Israel were among the first countries to follow America's example. The European Medicines Agency gave the green light for EU countries to start immunizing their young people. Austria, Hungary, Spain, Greece, and Germany gave the go-ahead after the agency's November 25th recommendation.
Ich glaube, wenn ich auch an die neue Variante von Omikron denke, dass es gute Gründe gibt, auch Kinder, die nicht vorerkrankt sind, zu impfen, weil das natürlich auch Teilhabe zum Beispiel an einem regelmäßigen Schulunterricht und vieles andere uns ermöglichen wird.
In France, from this Wednesday, only children ages 5 to 11 at risk of developing a serious form of COVID can be immunized. The government is in favor of opening vaccines to all, but French health experts are waiting for the real data coming in from the U.S. before offering full vaccinations to their youth.
The U.S. has surpassed 800,000 COVID deaths, according to Johns Hopkins University. To mark the somber toll, lawmakers gathered on the steps of the Capitol on Tuesday to observe a moment of silence. U.S. President Joe Biden, meanwhile, calling the milestone tragic, adding, quote, "We must resolve to keep fighting this virus together."
On the steps of the U.S. Capitol, a candlelight vigil by lawmakers for the 800,000 American lives lost to COVID-19. On the floor of the House of Representatives, more somber commemoration.
The chair asks all members to rise for a moment of silence in remembrance of the 800,000 Americans who have passed away from COVID-19 virus. Let us pray that they rest in peace.
The U.S. has now seen 50 million confirmed coronavirus cases, and though its per capita death toll is 20th in the world for sheer number of fatalities, only Brazil and India even begin to approach its level. Most troublingly, some 450,000 Americans have died of the disease in 2021, more than in 2020. Despite the widespread availability of 3 highly effective vaccines starting this past spring. The vast majority of this year's U.S. COVID deaths have been among the unvaccinated, where the risk of death from the virus is 14 times higher than among those who are fully inoculated. Just over 61% of the U.S. population is double jabbed, a figure that lags well behind most wealthy Western nations. And the country is far from out of the woods. It's now in the midst of its 5th wave of the virus, with some 100,000 deaths in the past 2.5 months alone, as cases of the highly contagious Omicron variant begin to mount. And though Omicron is so far believed to cause less severe illness than previous variants, health authorities fear its exceptional transmissibility could end up making it just as deadly.
Well, staying in the U.S., lawmakers have voted to raise the country's debt ceiling, narrowly dodging a disastrous default. The move gives the government room to borrow until 2023 after the midterm elections. Well, our business editor, Stephen Carroll, is here with me in the studio for more. Stephen, what exactly have politicians in Washington agreed on?
They've agreed to raise the government's borrowing limit by $2.5 trillion. The vote approved by the Senate and the House just hours before a deadline that had been set by the Treasury Secretary, where America could have ended up defaulting on its debts. The Senate passing the measure just 50 to 49. This was after a deal deal agreed between Republicans and Democrats last week, which allowed them to pass it by a simple majority. After this vote, the new US debt ceiling is going to be $31.4 trillion. This increase much bigger than the stopgap measure that was passed in October. The current national debt in the US, just under 29 trillion. That's where this room to borrow comes from. Essentially, the government has enough money to be able to borrow to meet its obligations now until 2023. That's the theory anyway. And that, of course, as you say, will be after the midterm elections.
And why do politicians in Washington have to vote on this issue so regularly?
So the US Constitution says that Congress must approve government borrowing. Since 1917, that's been more or less organised into what we now know as the debt ceiling. Most other countries don't have this sort of measure, which is why we hear about it almost uniquely in the United States. Raising the debt ceiling used to be routine. It's actually the 89th time that Congress has approved raising the debt ceiling since 1959. It's become increasingly politicised over the years, though. That's despite the potentially disastrous consequences if they didn't approve it and the US defaulted on its debts. In fact, it's estimated that the fact that we just have these brushes with the debt ceiling every so often cost hundreds of millions of dollars to the American economy. The evolution of the debt ceiling, which you can see on this graph, gives you an idea of how fast it's risen, particularly during the pandemic. We see that spike there towards the end of the graph as it's risen up towards that 31.4 trillion where it is now. It's grown, of course, under both Republican and Democrat presidents.
And this deal will be a relief to President Joe Biden, who's still trying to secure support for a major new spending plan.
Democrats are trying to push through President Biden's $1.75 trillion social spending bill. It's dubbed Build Back Better. They're trying to do it by the end of this year. It's already been passed by the House, but it needs every Democratic senator on board to pass in the Senate. One in particular is holding out. President Biden spoke to the Democratic Senator Joe Manchin on Monday. He says that he's still not ready to back it. Those talks are ongoing, but this really is important for Joe Biden. It's the flagship package of his economic plan. It includes hundreds of billions of dollars for childcare, introducing family leave for the first time in the US, money for housing, investment in clean energy, plus investment in healthcare as well. Would be largely paid for by taxes on the wealthy and on big business. Manchin's resistance, though, means they might not make that end-of-year deadline, but talks are ongoing. There's likely to be still some time to go in those discussions.
All right. Well, thanks for those business news updates. France 24, Stephen Carroll with me here in the studio. Moving on, here in Europe, cannabis use is tolerated in countries such as the Netherlands and Portugal, but Malta has now become the first European country to legalize it for personal use, approving its possession and cultivation in limited amounts. Some restrictions do remain, however. Nicholas Rushworth tells us more.
Supporters of the legalization of cannabis celebrated. Among them, Malta's equality minister who promoted the legislation. He says the country has chosen a harm reduction approach.
It will stop once and for all the criminalization of people who for a lot of time have been criminalized when they are not criminals. So we have put an end to the criminalization of people who are not criminals.
MPs in Malta voted by 36 votes to 27 in Parliament to make it legal for anyone 18 and over to possess up to 7 grams of cannabis and to cultivate up to 4 plants. Consuming cannabis in public, however, and in the presence of minors, remains illegal. The new regulations will allow for the setting up of non-profit clubs that can distribute cannabis and cannabis plant seeds among their members. There will also be a regulatory authority. Reaction to the legislation on the streets of Valletta, the Maltese capital, was mixed.
I think that we should be legalized in Malta because it will help people to coexist and be more friendly with each other.
Personally, do not agree with it for the simple reason that I think it would make us lazier as a society. But I do not agree that anyone that is using for personal use should be jailed or held, have criminal charges against them.
Malta is the first European country to allow limited cultivation and possession of cannabis. Luxembourg, which announced similar plans in October, has yet to green-light proposals. And in Germany, the new coalition government says it plans to legalize cannabis for recreational use.
And finally, it may not be as well known as its Cuban variant, but it has millions of fans around the world. Congolese rumba has now been added to the list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity, a decision officially announced this week by UNESCO. Our correspondents in Kinshasa report.
At 77, Guvanavangu has lost none of his skills. Back in the 60s, he would play this song alongside Tabule Rochereau, one of the legends of Congolese rumba. Guvano was then the lead guitarist in the African Fiesta Orchestra.
This is me performing with my friends. That's me right there.
In those years, the entire Congolese capital was vibrating to the rhythm of rumba.
Back then, there were concerts almost every day, from Monday to Monday, and people would come in large numbers because there weren't many bands at the time. And this was the only form of entertainment. Those who had a band were the ones attracting the public.
Derived from Kumba, a naval dance from Central Africa, rumba was born on Cuban soil and returned to Congo in the 1940s. In 1960, it became the anthem of independence and went on to inspire hundreds of artists over the decades. In this cultural center in Kinshasa, musicians come to learn about its secrets.
This is what traditional rumba sounds like. Rumba has a history. So you can't make real rumba if you don't take inspiration from the old rumba. As a young musician, if you understand what rumba is about, then you can also create other genres.
A bridge between past and present. For this historian, rumba has a unique place in Congolese history.
Rumba is, so to speak, a thread that connects us all. It binds us as a nation. Wherever you go in the Democratic Republic of Congo, rumba is always a common theme.
A common theme and now a universal treasure. Rumba will continue to make people dance on both banks of the Congo River for a long time to come.
That's all from me for now, but stay tuned to France 24 for more world news.
That whole lot was the playground. It was a beautiful beach. This is where we played football when we were kids, when we were like 10 years old. From this part to the further end was the beach, and where we are standing now is the middle of the playground.
Jofar Khalid has spent his entire life on this small island and has watched its beaches disappear into the ocean.
To protect our beach, we built that wall all around the lagoon. I realize now how much this place has eroded and how much beach we have lost, and I'm deeply saddened by that.
The sea has been devouring Toulouchefou, one of the 1,200 islands of the Maldives, for several decades. And now, this erosion threatens the land. Hundreds of palm trees lining the coast have already disappeared.
Every day, a small bit is lost to the waves, as trees and palms are brought down. Once the trees are gone, the beach doesn't have the power to protect itself anymore. What's left here now soon will be washed away. Here's the beach as it was before. I wish that it could one day look like this again. We have lots of fond memories of this place where everybody comes and hangs out. And when you see this now, it's very sad.
Toulouchefou Island is just one of a dozen examples. Boduhura, Kureduparu, these patches of paradise have already disappeared from the map. It's a climate and humanitarian emergency for which the countdown has already begun. In October 2009, at a depth of 6 meters, members of the Maldivian government held history's first underwater council of ministers. This astonishing action was a cry to the world to take drastic measures against global warming and the rising sea levels that threaten to submerge the Republic of the Maldives. This archipelago, located in the heart of the Indian Ocean, has 26 atolls. 1,200 pristine sandy islets lie less than a meter above sea level. At the current rate, 80% of the archipelago will be submerged by 2050, while marine pollution is slowly decimating its delicate biodiversity. This heavenly web of islands exists on borrowed time. In the northern part of the Maldives lies the private island of Kudahura. Nearly 150 islets in the archipelago are operated by luxury hotels like this one, which have often been accused of contributing to the country's pollution. But in recent years, many of these tourist sites have taken an eco-responsible turn to protect their lagoons.
These fragments are alive and from a colony, so we will place them in the frame. It will actually encrust into the frame and then grow into be its own colony. So in around 3 years, this frame should be fully grown.
Alejandra and Mani are marine biologists. They work in partnership with this hotel on a coral cuttings grafting project on these artificial structures. These little animals with their mineral skeletons could help save the Maldives.
So whenever the waves are breaking near the island, it actually absorbs all the energy, so it prevents it from erosion and things like that. So that's how coral reefs protect the islands.
Due to warming oceans, 80% of the country's corals have been wiped out. But at the foot of these luxury villas,
Can you please monitor that frame for photos?
hope seems to be reborn. These coral transplants come from the most resistant species and can survive the warmer currents.
These guys are actually doing really well in this area, and we normally have a lot of fish swimming around there because it protects them, and as well it provides a lot of food for them. It gives a lot of hope, yes. Especially after how much coral we lost and the bleaching and everything, this definitely brings a little bit of hope and happiness around.
The hotel complex even has a marine studies center where the collected data is sent. This French engineer has created state-of-the-art software for this program, which monitors its development using artificial intelligence.
Each little square means the computer has automatically detected a coral. Therefore, it tells us what species it detected, and the dead coral is in green. When we used to analyze the growth of corals, we had to go underwater, dive with a board, and note all the colonies one by one. Today, the studies have gone to the next level, and we can now automatically analyze 70,000 colonies at once with the computer.
The Maldives also made the choice to scale up in an attempt to protect their inhabitants. On the island of Malé, the capital, nearly 230,000 people already crowd just over 2 square kilometers. In order to resist the rising waters and house its growing population, the authorities decided to build an artificial island created entirely from scratch. This is Hulhumale, the city of hope in the Vehi. Hasim Khan is one of the architects in charge of the project.
What we did was we reclaimed this island, which was non-existent before. It was water. So we reclaimed it to a height of 2 meters above the water level to make this artificial island.
This titanic project came to life in 2001, and 20 years later, the first small island was built with industrial and residential areas. 45,000 inhabitants have already moved here. Hasim agreed to take us across this bridge, which is still prohibited for the public, to show us the second islet of Hulhumale. The plan here is to build a business district, a marina, a university, and new hotels to attract more tourists.
We are going to use that sand for reclamation and other construction purposes.
And where the sand is coming from?
This is the sand we dig from the sea.
The final construction of Hulhumale will have required 10 million cubic meters of sand. The total cost would be $35 billion, part of which is financed by China. A strategic move to strengthen the Maldives' position in the Indian Ocean.
And you see this housing blocks. You see these buildings over there. They are all residential buildings coming up, which is already under construction. Phase 2 is also targeted for 100,000 people. You can say it's an entire city.
The construction of Hulhumale should be complete by 2035. But this project to save the Maldives from an ecological tragedy comes at another cost. And ironically, it's environmental.
Reclamation may be not the only answer. I mean, now in this day and this with the existing technology, we should try to look at how people can live over the water instead of reclamation, because of course reclamation has its downside of affecting our coral reefs and the underwater habitat.
The artificial islands of the Maldives are not always used wisely. Hassan JBay created the association Save Our Beaches 10 years ago. It fights environmental pollution.
Here we have our plastic collection. This is a collection of this month. Every day, like after cleaning the beach, maybe after an hour, if you go to the beach, you will find something on the shore, for sure. Like mostly it's found plastic, yeah. It is a very sad story, so that's why I can't stop it. Like I couldn't stop it. We've been doing it for like more than 10 years now, so still we are going. We will do it until we find a solution. What to do?
This plastic ends up on the beaches.
I feel like it's not never-ending job, it is.
But especially in the ocean, where it's ingested by marine fauna and contaminates the entire food chain. But JBay wants to show us one of the biggest battles he's facing. A few kilometers away from the capital by boat lies the artificial island of Tilafushi.
We are getting to the dump area now. Oh my God.
Nicknamed the Trash Island, Tilafushi was built by the government to contain garbage from all over the archipelago. It is a mountain of waste floating in the ocean, overflowing from every side.
Sometimes they even can't stop the burn because now there is so much gas inside it. It keeps burning itself as well. When they take trash from the excavator, there's a lot of them it's getting into the ocean.
Up to 400 tons of garbage is dumped here every day by boats. The toxic material that is released from the waste contaminates the soil and flows into the Indian Ocean.
This is not our colors of the lagoons. The color is coming from all trash and pollution. Like our lagoons looks like turquoise water actually. The blame goes to everyone today. The government also, they're not taking the right actions, or they're not working towards in finding the solution for our garbage in the Maldives. And even the tourism sector, there are few islands which are trying to do waste management, proper waste management in the islands. They are trying, but most of the other resorts, they're not doing it.
Despite the hazards, man-made island projects are still flourishing in the Maldives. Now it's a race against time to find the fragile balance between two conflicting ideals: the development of a nation or the protection of its environment.
Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you. How you doing?
I'm good. You know, last year, what a year. Like no other, really.
Like no other.
How important for you was it to keep racing?
I think it was incredibly important. If you look at how the year went, if you saw the kind of the noise we were able to make, grab the attention of people. I think also for people who are, all of us were isolated, I think it was really healthy for people to see sports. So I think we had a responsibility, and I'm grateful that we were able to continue.
Is rewriting F1 history important to you?
No. I guess you're talking rewriting history in terms of records.
That would be it.
I'm more about rewriting or writing the future in terms of diversity inclusion within our sport, because it has always been white dominated and male dominated, and I think it's time for a change. So I'm really grateful to be a part of an era where sport is now being used as a platform for good. I'm starting to see change already.
Well, you never saw anyone that looked like you, right?
No.
Doing the sport that you're the best in the world at.
No.
So...
It was just me and my dad.
Yeah, that was in the whole sport.
I'm just so grateful I had my dad by my side, you know? We went through a lot on the way up. And I'm excited for one day to show people that story, because I think people today often see the tip of the iceberg. For anyone that's out there, whoever's story it may be, you only really see the tip of the success, you know, but that's underneath the sea level. There's so much work that went on in the background and so much struggle. And I think that's what people can relate to, because it was normal life, you know.
It's a new season, you know, after a pretty crazy year. How are you and your team preparing for this new racing season?
There's a huge amount going on. So the normal building of a new car, well, the transformation of a 2020 car into this year, it's the first year that we've not had a brand new car because of some rule changes. But a lot of work going on in the background. Last year, obviously, was really about holding people accountable, holding ourselves accountable, and this year's about action. So there's a foundation that we're putting together to really support diversity and inclusion. Where they're hiring from is not going to be the same pool anymore. They're now casting a wider net. And I've also got the Hamilton Commission, which hopefully in the next couple of months will have some real tangible results that we can then take to the sport and all the teams within it, and maybe the sponsors, the partners that are in the sport. So it's a year of action. And on top of that, we've got to try and win.
Yeah, small detail.
Yeah, but it's kind of cool. It's just, I think in the past, I was always winning. I was always chasing that win for personal desire, for my family who believed in me from day one. Now it's an amazing kind of revelation that now I'm like, I realize I can get on top of the podium. I can use that platform to speak for good and to help bring attention to things and empower people.
And the Hamilton Commission, right?
Yeah.
Is extraordinary, because if I'm correct, you're showing the engineering is where people with diverse voices should try, they should see. And you know, it's not just racing the car, it's a whole industry behind this that is highly paid, that people that look like you and me may never even know existed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, underrepresentation, as you know, is a huge issue. And I think in our industry, and when I came out with this Hamilton Commission, everyone thought you just want more drivers coming through. The fact is it's so expensive, and there's only 20 of us. But there are all these incredible jobs in the background, thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs in engineering and aerodynamics, and it's really encouraging youngsters. I mean, if you saw last year in Austria, we had a young black girl that was on the podium with me. It's the first time in 70 years they've had a black female on the podium in Formula One. So, but being able to see that, young girls now are like, oh my God, I could be in Formula One.
It matters.
And it's super, super important,
You do so many things, and you know, you love music and cinema and the arts. What do your passions mean to you?
I think, like you know, I went through school. The things that I excelled at were art, were where I was having to be creative. like design technology, where I had to design something. When it came to numbers and all those things, being dyslexic, I was really suppressed because I was struggling. I was in all the bottom classes, and I was trying so hard to work my way up, and I was never allowed. Teachers just said you weren't good enough. So, and naturally sport, it's very athletic. What I always discovered is I was just good at things that I could be creative with. So music is a great creative outlet. And that's really been something I've just been tapping into, allowing.
Does it give you an edge as well in terms of your sport? Does your passion in music help you mentally have something that makes you stand apart?
I don't know if it helps me stand apart. I think it's just, in my world that I've came into, they would say that you have to be a driver, you have to be this one thing. You can't do anything else. They kind of put you in a box, you know? And I think I had to, if I would just focus on racing, I would lose my mind.
Okay. So
being able to unwind, be able to tap into something else. I'm not great at all these other things. I'm not great at the guitar, but I love playing. You don't have to be the best at everything, but learning something new, finding new pathways in your mind to release feelings. And that's the great thing with music. You can be vulnerable, you can have attitude, you can be swaggy, you can be a different person if you want to be. And I think that's the beautiful thing with music.
And it doesn't judge you.
Exactly.
You mentioned, and I have to, I get emotional because you mentioned that you have dyslexia, something that I struggle with. It never leaves us, right?
No.
And like you, I really struggled at school, and if it wasn't for the kind of family that we have, maybe we wouldn't have ended up doing what we've done.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you now, knowing that there are boys and girls out there right now that maybe don't believe they're worth much because of their minds are just a little bit different?
Well, I think hopefully you and I, and so many out there, will show them and hopefully inspire them that they can be still something special. And it is a shame that today in the world that going to school, there's a certain way you have to study, and if your mind doesn't work in that way, then you're valued, or you maybe valued less whilst you're in that world. But as they can see from me, my mind works in such a different way. And, for a long time was told that I was just, whether it's slow or just not smart enough.
Slow, ironic.
Yeah, but the way my mind computes things and how I'm able to dialogue with and debate with Harvard and Oxford and Cambridge University students, engineers that I work with, that's not someone that's stupid.
Yep.
So I think it's really just encouraging people, encouraging parents particularly, because, also my parents, whilst they supported me incredibly through my career, they didn't understand what dyslexia was. And they're like, you just got to work harder. And then it's an actual real issue, and something that should be embraced by schools and parents.
I have a few talks coming up with schools and universities, and I'm going to start with saying they told Lewis Hamilton that he was slow. That should get the kids going. Oh boy. So, as you've grown, has the importance of your passions changed? Are there things that you were into when you were a little bit younger that you just have grown out of, or has it always been quite constant? You've always liked music, or is this new?
Yeah. I think the fact is it's very hard. There's only one of us, right? And that you only have a certain amount of energy, and to master something, it takes tens of thousands of hours of time. And so, unfortunately, no matter what, some other things that you might be passionate about generally fall to the side as seem less important. But music has always been there for me, fortunately. But I would say that I've been doing it more and more as I've learned to have more capacity to be able to divide my time and be more efficient with my time, whether that's with your family, whether it's with your friends, always finding a balance. Like I'm have a serious life, but I always like to have fun, and I think that's so important. It's so important to laugh at least once during your day, otherwise you just go stir crazy. So, and find something you love. And it can be anything. And as I said, you don't have to be the best at it.
No.
When I get back from my day job, I have a little music set up. and I'll even just playing music.
I've seen you on the ground, man.
Yeah, even just playing music or listening to music or writing. Like last night, I wrote a verse, and then I just stopped. Like I didn't know where else to go with it, and just bit by bit, I'll just keep adding to that, and you know.
Well, I hope we can hear it one day.
Oh God, I don't know. I don't really create it to have it come out.
Yeah.
Just do it as a.
Yeah.
If it's ever good enough, maybe.
Yeah, you see what they do? So style and identity go hand in hand. And whose sense of style and identity do you admire?
So for me, growing up, I think it was really, and still today, I mean, it's Pharrell. I think Pharrell, not only being, again, working in two different worlds, being one of the greatest producers, I think, of our time, but then his collaborations and seeing how he's worked with different brands and really created this incredibly iconic image. For me, he's someone to follow.
And he never ages. He looks 21.
Yeah, everyone's yeah.
I was just listening to Frontin this morning. It hasn't aged a bit.
No, and I think a lot of people don't realize a lot of the great music he's done for other people.
Yeah, so Neptunes of no, it's.
And he's just come out with a skincare product, you know, because everyone wants to know what he's putting on his skin.
Yeah.
And so that's probably going to do well because everyone wants to be young.
I want some of that Pharrell concussion. So tell me your sense of style. What does it say about you? You know, people always will have opinions about style, and I just love the fact that in F1, there's no doubt that you're bringing it in terms of style. Every single time you have the opportunity to show what you like to wear.
I try to. I think we, well, in our world, in our sport, that it's very restricted. You know, you always be in team kit, you're in formal wear, you know, but I still try and play around with it. I think it took a long time for me. There's definitely, I look back for a good period of time and a part of discovery, trying to feel how I wanted to present myself. You know, I remember when I first got to my first F1 meeting, and when I was younger, I was crazy into hip hop, so it was baggy clothes, really into basketball, so I was like a lot of Jordan wear. And I remember turning up to a meeting and I had these baggy jeans on, and I remember being looked from head to toe and really feeling like the displeasing look that I'd had. This is not how an F1 driver should look like. And I remember getting home, my dad saying, "You've got to change." Then I wasn't able to be myself, and it's the worst thing, not being able to feel free in your own skin. And of course, I think everyone just needs to embrace their individuality and wear what you want. And
that matters as much as you winning on the track, because there are going to be boys and girls that see that and like, well, if Lewis Hamilton can do it, why can't I?
Yeah, I think it's the mental. That's one of the reasons I think that I'm able to be consistent and succeed in our job, is that I've managed to create these barriers where I don't post things to be judged, to see what people think of it. I don't need anybody's approval. This is who I am. This is how I like to dress. And I kind of walk my own walk. And then I get in and do my job. And then people are like, oh, how is he supposed to be over here? He was over in New York doing this shoot. There's no way he could fly from there to Singapore and perform this way. Why'd you let him do it? They asked my boss, how do you give him this freedom? And then I go and put in the best time that they've ever seen. And
look at the numbers.
Yeah, exactly. You know. So that's not easy to do, but
you do it. And again, you know, it leads me to this question on fashion. You know, what is there a look that you look back on? You're like, Lewis, WTF? How did I leave my house dressed that way?
Honestly, I don't look back very often. So it would be someone showing me a picture, and it would have been like my probably my early to mid 20s, probably somewhere. I definitely look at things where you have to conform, where I definitely conformed to what people expected. So when I was younger, going to awards, having to wear suits. That's why I love Pharrell. Like, he goes in whatever he wants.
Whatever he wants,
And I remember I look back at those and I'm like, God, I wish I didn't. Why did I wear that dicky bow?
Yeah, it wasn't you, right? It wasn't you.
No, it just wasn't comfortable. Now I generally go in what I want. And but of course, being in the position, I mean, now I can kind of get away with it. But you know,
you're the most successful F1 driver ever. Do you feel you have to be successful at whatever you do outside of motor racing because of this incredibly, high sense of performance that you do in your own sport?
Honestly, I think everything I do, I think if I apply myself, I know by applying myself the way I have to my sport, I could be good at many different things. And that's never gonna change. So whatever I have to move on to, I'll apply it. I'm super determined. I have a good work ethic, but I don't think the pressure would be anywhere near as much as when I was younger. I think the pressure, as I said, you've got to enjoy the journey.
Yes. And speaking on journey, what is this next phase in your life and career going to be? Everyone is watching, and you've reached what seems to be the pinnacle, right? So
Yeah.
What's next?
I don't know. I think, like everyone, I think I'm one day at a time. I'm still trying to navigate through this beautiful thing we call life. And I don't get it all wrong. I don't have a crystal ball. One thing that last year, particularly, probably the most important year I think in my life, because it was like the climax of all these years of belief that my dad and myself and I had in what we were doing. And then on top of that, the whole thing with George, the whole movement that started, the finally having an opportunity to really speak out on something. Because I think for me, if I had spoken up, I had been trying to speak out about the fact that my team and the sport was not diverse, but it was just glanced at, wasn't taken serious. And last year gave us a real microphone to speak about it. And I really felt that I've really found part of my purpose.
Yep.
So even beyond my driving, I've got a job to hold the people in my sport accountable to make sure that they really follow through on the things that they said they were going to do last year. I've got to hold myself accountable, make sure that my team is diverse, hopefully creating opportunities and pathways for, we're all shooting stars, and we've got to let people get in that slipstream and come
absolutely.
up
I love
through.
that. Yeah.
I don't really know what other business I'm going to get into. I like the fact that it could be anything.
Well, speaking of business, I think you invested in a vegan burger business in 2019.
I did, yes.
Yeah, so...
that's a part of a journey that I've been on in terms of going vegan, understanding, becoming more and more conscious of the impact that I'm having on the world, and health and well-being, which is invaluable. It's the most precious thing we have is our health. The climate issue is a serious issue, and so it's really interesting to see the new technologies coming out, the new food, and I haven't had McDonald's for God knows how long, but I know how unhealthy that is, and so I was really stunned at this project, and I wanted to be a part of it, and it's been amazing, the support from so many people in London. It's really cool to see something grow and be a part of something like that.
Amazing. There's a great quote I love that could be applied to vegetarians and vegans by William Ing, and it says, if our furry friends could formulate a religion, they would depict man as a devil. And it made me really, really think of what we've done to the rest of the animal kingdom.
Yeah, it's tragic.
Right, so what is the biggest misconception about you, sir?
I really don't know, because firstly, I don't read a lot about what's going on. And I think that's really to protect myself, mentally. So I think if you're constantly reading comments, if you're constantly reading stories, everyone has an opinion, and doesn't mean any of them are right. What's important is that I know my values, I know the people around me that I'm working with know me, and what happens is when you get to, as I said, when people tune in today, they see me succeeding. They don't see all the work that goes on in the background, and that's the same probably for everyone.
Yep.
The story of where we came from and where we started is a lot different to a lot of the people that I race against. There are a lot of things that I struggle with. Like I'm not good behind the camera. I freeze up. Like I have massive anxiety. Like if I go on stage, I never want to be on stage. Just go and get the award for me, or or do the speech for me. I think people sometimes struggle to understand when you're racing in that intense environment. Emotions are so high. You say all sorts.
Mhm,
Just
sure.
like maybe in an argument, you say things perhaps you don't mean. But again, I don't really know what. I'd hope that people over time will just know me as a hard out and out racist. but
What we
someone-
saw
yes.
last year was, from my point of view, and a lot of people that are allies in this anti-racist movement, sure you stand in sometimes alone, standing up for what you believe in, and that was really, really important.
I think last year was one of the most proudest things for me was, for example, taking the knee. It was really I really wanted particularly the black community to know, hey, I hear you and I'm with you all the way. And, also I've suffered in silence growing up and quiet, and all those emotions that came up last year, and now I finally got the platform and the power to really create change.
Yep.
And that for me is means so much more than all these championships, these wins.
Wow.
And
wow, I got goosebumps. I'm so proud of you for you even being able to sit here and say that.
Thank you.
That matters.
I really appreciate it.
All the GOATs, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, I'm putting in Muhammad Ali. What do you think, and you are in this category, sir, and do not let humility hold you back on that. But now you've reached that rare airspace, what do you think you all have in common?
Well, for example, with Michael, who's been a fan with since I was a kid, we obviously just saw his documentary, and I'm sure that was a real reminder of just how great he was, but also the single-minded focus that you have to have in order to do what you do, to be great.
And sacrifice, right?
And sacrifice. So I think I look at a lot of athletes out there, and there are so many similarities, and the respect is increased because you're like, I can only imagine how tough it is. For example, Serena, one of the few black women in tennis, but they're all going through their own struggles. We're all incredibly and fiercely competitive. None of us like losing. There are so many similarities, but what's really interesting is looking at all the different people and what they're doing once they get to the success. Because that's once you have it, what are you going to do? It's
and that's where greatness comes from. Muhammad Ali, yes, he was amazing in the ring, but I think he became GOAT because of what he did outside of the ring.
Absolutely.
And that's really in terms of, what you are doing. I do, and I said this when we had our last conversation, I wonder whether history will remember you more for what you did on the track or more for what you did for what you stand for. Both are great.
Well, honestly, it's not an easy walk. Again, you were mentioning it can be lonely, and it's a minefield. One false, if you get the word wrong, or if you say something, it's just taken out of context. It's really, I think it's quite difficult. So a lot of people maybe shy away from. They have good intentions, but also they have a bunch of people in the background says,
handlers,
stay quiet, don't do that. And fortunately, I'm just not wired that way.
No.
I've been getting in trouble since I was a kid. So.
You've been swimming upstream for a while, right?
Yes.
So when you're going a gabillion miles an hour, in a very important race, is it possible for you to just think about anything else, like what you're going to have for supper, or what you're going to get your mum for Christmas, or
not in the race, unfortunately. I would say that in practice sometimes you can, because it can be kind of tedious. But never in a race.
As we're recording this, I'm going to make sure the Briones family hear you say this. I don't think anyone's heard you speak. That you basically you won that race for her, right?
Yeah.
And that again matters. It matters.
I mean, so many people. I'm just trying to do my part. I think we're all just trying to do our part, aren't we? And we're all the same. Regardless. The problem today, I think we have to all be challenging ourselves and asking ourselves these difficult questions of how we treat one another, whether it's dependent on the color of their skin, whether it's dependent on their sexual orientation or their religion. And I dream, and it could sound silly, but I really dream of one day it being equal for everyone. And no matter where you come from, where you start from, having an equal opportunity. and not being disadvantaged already from the day you're born.
Yep.
You know, that's another story.
That's another story. But you know, look, I'm trying to tell the world that we must look at our own light through my pictures, through my storytelling. You're doing it in many ways, and as we climb, we lift.
Yeah.
As we climb, we lift.
Well, I just want to acknowledge you, and storytelling is so important, and that what you're able to capture tells a story for so many different individuals. Every day I see you post something different, I'm like, wow, it impacts me. So just imagine how many people you're impacting. So please don't stop. Yeah, keep going. It's a real pleasure and honor to shoot with you and work with you. So easy, you make the shoot so quick. Make me feel like I'm a professional, and I'm not.
No, I said, humility, too much. Thank you, Lewis, thank you. As always, I enjoy just shooting the breeze with you, mate.
And you.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Right.
The National Coronavirus Command Council has decided to enforce a nationwide lockdown.
I want to punch you right in your dumb face right now.
We want to fight bad guys. It defines who I am.
I'm gonna have to get dirty.
Oh, no, that's personal. Come on, honey, let's just keep it fun. Thought we were in trouble there for a second, but it's fine. We're fine.
There's no, real magic in the world, right?
What do you mean? Snowy, look at this.
When I wake up in the morning, love.
This way?
Hey, look, if I was drunk, would I be able to do this?
Fuck you. I thought it might be too much.
Are you gonna walk me home or what?
Good question. Wrong answer. She's right there. You're not gonna do anything?
What are you, an idiot?
Don't call me an idiot, Dixon!
I didn't call you an idiot. I asked if you was an idiot.
This is breaking and entering!
We haven't broken anything.
Well, that's just great!
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
It's actually quite good fun.
Yes.
That's it, we've run out of options. Just pretend to be dead. I'll be here.
Oh my God, please help me.
You know this is pathetic, right?
I'm just going round and round in circles.
Take your hands off my lobby boy!
Have you lost your mind?
No, ma'am. But you about to.
The oldest distillery in America, Jack Daniel's set the bar for Tennessee whiskey. Old Number 7 started as a World's Fair gold medal winner. 150 years later, it still has icon status.
You could remove the label from the bottle and people would still be able to look at it and say, that's a Jack Daniel's bottle.
This whiskey has long represented free spirits and independence. The Stones drank it proudly, and Frank Sinatra made it his staple beverage.
His daughter made sure that there was a bottle of Jack Daniel's buried with him.
1 billion liters ships to 140 countries every year, and every drop comes out of a dry town with one stoplight.
We think we make the finest whiskey in the world right here in Lynchburg.
It's hard to believe, but Jack Daniel's is made in a town where it's illegal to sell it. 80 years after Prohibition, Lynchburg, Tennessee is still dry.
You can't buy it liquor by the drink on the square here. There's not a bar. There's not a whiskey store here in town.
As a distillery, it's important to be close to your water source, and Jack struck liquid gold in the mid-1800s when he moved his distillery to Lynchburg's Cave Springs.
Every drop of Jack Daniel's is made from this spring water right here. Every drop.
The initial ingredients are the same as when Jack started: corn, malted barley, and rye. The mix has a very low percentage of rye.
Where most Kentucky bourbons are bold, peppery, or spicy, I describe Jack as being sweet to oaky in character.
150 trucks a week come through the distillery carting grain for the whiskey.
There's about 1 million pounds of grain a day that's being unloaded and elevated into our silos.
Jack Daniel's is a sour mash whiskey, which means that some of the spent grains from previous batches are used to start fermentation on a new batch.
What that means is basically that you recycle some of your distillate.
The spent grains are added to the ground corn and cave spring water and cooked in a mash cooker.
The mash cookers are basically heating up the grains, cooling them back down, and then setting them into the fermenter.
As the temperature cools, rye is added, and then barley malt, along with Jack Daniel's own strain of yeast.
The yeast that we use today is the one that we've had since Prohibition.
Because yeast decays when it's exposed to air or moisture, Jack Daniel's isn't taking any chances with their yeast.
We do keep the yeast cultures, in cryogenic storage as a backup measure.
The yeast in the mash will sit in the fermenting tanks for 4 to 6 days.
Okay, this fermenter was set approximately 3 hours ago. You can see how this one is starting to actively bubble.
After several hours, the yeast really gets rolling, not from heat, but from the yeast acting on the water and grains.
It takes each one of those molecules and splits it kind of 50-50 between a CO2 molecule and an ethanol molecule, or whiskey.
After the yeast has done its work, a liquid with about a 12% alcohol content is transferred to a copper still for distillation.
What you're doing inside a distillation column is just taking advantage of the fact that alcohol will become a vapor.
At the right temperature, alcohol will turn to vapor, but the excess water will remain liquid.
You want to be hot enough that you can vaporize the alcohol, but not so hot that you're also making steam from the water.
The vaporized alcohol is transferred and cooled back into a liquid. This time, the alcohol content is at a full 140 proof.
And then all you're going to do is collect that off into your condenser.
Next, the condensed whiskey is passed through charcoal, made by burning ricks of sugar maple. It has no taste or smell when burned.
What we're using here is 140 proof whiskey. We start in the center.
The whiskey used as fuel for the fire is pulled straight from the still.
The reason we use that is because we don't want any kind of petroleum products.
After the wood is burned, it's cooled down and moved into the charcoal room for grinding.
We'll bring it in here and put it in this grinder and grind it up to about a 1/4 inch consistency. The reason we wanted a 1/4 inch consistency is it gives it more surface area.
More surface area ensures the whiskey will run through the charcoal and not around it.
What the charcoal does is filter the fusel oils, the corn oils, out of the whiskey. When it goes out the bottom of this 10 foot of this charcoal is 140 proof Jack Daniel's Tennessee whiskey.
The vats are made of white oak. The charcoal is changed out at least every 6 months.
It takes 4 to 5 days before the whiskey, for it to go from the top to the bottom.
What separates this Tennessee whiskey from bourbon is that bourbon doesn't undergo charcoal mellowing.
A bourbon goes from the still to the barrel to the warehouse. Tennessee whiskey goes from the still through the charcoal, the barrel, and then the warehouse.
And you know, too, what makes Jack Daniel's so unique too, we do make our own barrels too,
Like the vats, the barrels are made of American white oak. They're constructed at a cooperage in Louisville, Kentucky. The barrels are formed from cut and planed wood. The wood is steamed so it's pliable, then it's shaped.
Just like bourbon, Jack Daniel's, which is a Tennessee whiskey, must be aged in a new charred white oak barrel.
The whiskey's color and a lot of its flavor comes from the barrels themselves.
The barrel is a key ingredient in the making of whiskey, and it's why Jack Daniel's makes all of its own barrels.
The right char takes about 20 to 25 seconds.
Picture a marshmallow at a campfire being held just above the top of a flame. Slowly it starts to turn brown. Slowly the sugar and flavors and the color changes on the surface of the marshmallow.
The heads of the barrels are assembled and cut to size. And they're charred as well. Heads are added to the barrels. And then hoops are put on.
We have a head hoop, quarter hoop, and a bilge hoop. So each barrel receives 6 hoops, 2 of each of those.
Then bung holes are drilled. Once a barrel makes it onto the truck bound for Lynchburg, it'll be filled with whiskey within a week before the wood starts to dry out and shrink.
I'm gonna start with this one here. I spot the bung hole up. I put the filler lance in the bung hole and start the whiskey flow.
Each barrel holds about 56 gallons, and it takes about a minute to fill.
Now take a wooden bung, place over the hole. With one hit, you put the bung in the barrel.
The barrels will sit for 4 to 7 years to age before being bottled.
You know, you can taste some of the charred in it from the barrel, some of the vanilla taste from the barrel. So, you know, it's a very unique whiskey.
Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 has been made the same way for 150 years. And for connoisseurs around the world, they wouldn't want it any other way.
All those things Jack Daniel's did and dictated that we do, and we still do it today. What we do differently today is we just do all of that a lot better.
December 15, 1961. An Israeli court sentences former Nazi official Adolf Eichmann to death for his role in the Holocaust during World War II. He is hanged the following year, denying to the end his responsibility for the Nazis' mass killing of Jews in Europe. 1944. A single-engine plane carrying bandleader Glenn Miller disappears over the English Channel on its way to Paris. Miller, at the time a major in the U.S. Army Air Forces during World War II, was 40 years old. 1791. The Bill of Rights takes effect after Virginia ratifies the first 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution. 1890. In South Dakota, Sioux Indian Chief Sitting Bull and 11 other tribe members are killed during a fight with Indian police. 1966. Walt Disney, founder of an entertainment empire that lasts to this day, dies in Los Angeles at age 65. And 1939. Atlanta hosts the world premiere of Gone with the Wind, the movie based on Margaret Mitchell's novel. Today in history, December 15th. Sandy Kozel, The Associated Press.
Sports brand Reebok has made prehistory with their collaboration with bioengineering giant InGen Technologies, the corporation founded by the late John Hammond to construct the now abandoned Jurassic Park. Inspired by the research of controversial geneticist Dr. Henry Wu, the team, comprising of InGen scientists and footwear designers from Reebok, have extracted the DNA of dinosaurs that once roamed Jurassic Park on Isla Nublar and spliced it with Reebok's own archive of sneakers, creating a collaboration some 65 million years in the making. The ethics of InGen's technology have previously been called into question by other academics, and though the project represents a huge leap forward in both genetic engineering and sneaker design, past events surrounding InGen and Dr. Wu have caused concern amongst some Reebok designers. One insider from the project reached out to us to voice their concern.
And before we even knew what we had patented it, packaged it, and slapped it in a shoebox. We were so preoccupied with whether we could, we didn't stop to think if we should.
Hold on to your butts, a full report coming soon. Next up, a hero donkey saves a popcorn vendor from a stampede at a petting zoo in Wyoming.
swallow still pulsing. Up here.
This day, that swallow from yesterday is right.
Good morning, welcome back to another episode. We are down here in JBay. It is 6:30 in the morning. It's pitch dark outside and a storm's about to hit. As you can see, this mega storm is hitting us at the moment. So it's gonna bring between 5 to 7 meter swell. I'm gonna go check it out. We'll all walk down in the dark, see if anyone's out already, but look at that, beautiful colors. Okay, it is 6 a.m. The sun hasn't even started coming up yet, it's dark. We're gonna wetsuit run down the rocks and hopefully get like half an hour of semi-uncrowded waves before the crowds come up. It's Sunday morning, so it's gonna be packed today. It's gonna be all time and have a little session. So we'll see you in the water. What's gonna go down today, Evan?
Some epic shit.
Sun is something up here. Hopefully get one away before it gets too light. We'll see you later. See you in the water.
Well, I was all alone, sitting in the tree, just picking up the apples that kept falling on me, just dreaming of a place I could go without being scared. And it took me a while to find out the things that got told when I was young, when I kept blocking up my ears just to prove the point that I could do it on my own. I guess Papa was right when he said listen to me, I can't save you the troubles of getting caught by the police or running away just to try to save your own skin. One day he told me his stories, the lines of his life, of how he thought it would be, but that's not how it was, and that's not the point that he was trying to get to me.
Session?
Yeah, it was really fun, eh? I mean, I guess the swell took a little bit late to come yesterday and woke up this morning and there was some really good sets. A little bit of a devil wind though, so there's a lot of bump, but nonetheless it was, you know, fun JBay. There was some good sets and got a couple barrels.
It was pretty good last night, you got a couple out there.
Yeah, last night was nice. It was windy but it was clean, you know. It was like, the face was really nice and smooth, so that was enjoyable, but yeah, I think it's going to be a fun week.
You're going to stick around for the swell?
Yeah,
up.
definitely.
Okay, so as you can see, the swell is still pulsing, just set after set coming through, completely surfed out, had a good surf this morning, arms, shoulders, completely finished. But Dale Staples just gave me a call, he's just driving in from St. Francis now. Now we're going to go have a little surf with him. Maybe I will put this one out and film it. So yeah, we're going to go hook up with him, get some of these bombs. See what he's been up to. Last time I saw him during the out of parole, he was just sitting up there in the desert by himself, getting the waves of his life every day alone. So if you haven't seen out of parole, go give it a watch. Him surfing some big West Coast barrels. Now we're going to get some shots of him surfing his home spot.
Oh, is it? In JBay?
Maxwell.
Put some of this on there, man. Nice waves coming through.
swallow is still pulsing, just set after set coming through.
This has been it's the best day. That swell from yesterday just arrived.
We go round and round looking for people and places to fill our hearts, to fill our souls. We go round and round looking for creatures, faces to fill our cups, to fill our throats. We go round and round looking for the answer to existence, to free our minds, to heal our bones. We go round and round looking for the fire inside us, to break our bars, to break our mold.
Like that. Couple of chicken kebabs after a couple of barrels. Some garlic bread.
Why is the garlic bread not on? You cooking the chicken before
Where
the
do you
garlic
want
bread?
me to put the garlic bread?
What, so we're having as a dessert?
What do we have there? We have our last beer of the night. It's a very sad time for us during the level 4 lockdown was announced on Sunday night.
Just dreaming.
We just wrapped up here in JBay, gonna about to head home. Waves are still pumping. It's hard to leave this place and the waves are so good. Hope you guys enjoyed all the footage. Put lots of good surfers in there, not too much of us because we'd rather see the good guys treading this way. So yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Back to Cape Town, huge storm coming. Missing a storm, big swell arriving on Saturday, but got to get back, start editing, get back to work. So we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.
Did you see anything? Because I can't. No. Oh, the drive back.
The drive back. Welcome to sunny Cape Town. It's in time for another storm to hit us.
Oh, look at that.
Check my mags, lady, check my mags. Morning guys, final day, Free State Champs. We're down at Pikes at Paradise Beach. The east is blowing, so conditions do look much better from yesterday and the day before. We're targeting raggies here, so full metal jacket, tuna circle, my dogfight our tournament, and JBay. There's some color in the water, so hopefully we get a bite. Currently in the Free State Champs, the club that I'm fishing for as a guest angler, Blue Waters, is the leading club, and we hope to maintain that lead. I think we're about 50 points ahead, and hopefully we can hang on to that today. But you know, fishing, one bonus fish makes a difference. So the idea is for us to get the bonus fish, and we'll see what happens from there. I'm just double checking and triple checking all my tackle A lot of bricks here, so when you hook a fish, you got to really pull and pull hard.
Morning, gents. We are in Jeffreys Bay, a place called Paradise. I'm actually here to fish our league, one of our leagues, which is fished here in Jeffreys Bay. We've been here since Wednesday. We started fishing yesterday morning. Conditions were much better yesterday, but unfortunately there weren't a lot of fish around. Had to do a lot of scratching, so I found myself some bronze bream and some eel-tail barbel. So we're here again this morning. Conditions are still looking good. Wind is going to pick up later, but I'm going to start off with scratching and hopefully find myself some bream and get some points on the board. Well, my tackle of choice today is my Salters 5000, paired up with my Salters 3 to 4 ounce rod, 30-pound kingfisher braid. That's been doing the trick for me, so I'm going to stick to what I know and hopefully be tight on, and see you later on. Cheers, guys.
Guys, beautiful mackerel from Kings, sardine. Look at the quality of the bait. Excellent, well preserved, well packed. If you want quality bait, that's the job that Kings does. Always producing and putting out the best quality they can get out there. Guys, here we have Frana van Zee. I'm joking. He's a little better looking. He fishes better than Frana. And I think he smells better than Frana to me. Yeah, he does. Adrian van Heerd from the Free State, the captain of Blue Waters, and one of my mates that I've been fishing for many years. It's been so long, he's actually getting old. And yeah, we've been fishing a lot of champs, a lot of A nationals together. We've been to Namibia twice. So someone I got to know very well over the last couple of years, and it's been a pleasure fishing with him. We always get up to mischief. We always meet up in all the right places at the wrong times, and all the wrong places at the right times. So Adrian, pleasure to the captain, one of the greatest captains on this coastline.
Thank you, Jace.
You're going to say something to the guys in the camera.
Well, yes, it's been a tough comp, but high hopes for today. And just to come back to what Jace has said, gentlemen of angling, of course, I have the pleasure of fishing with today. And yes, it's been great fishing with Jace. I've learned a hell of a lot. We fished the gust twice, as he said, and it's been great. I love fishing with him. Always there to teach and to help.
I've learned a lot from him as well. And you can see how we fish. And we still love each other. Punzi. There's a beautiful little punzi. Yeah guys, on my last throw there at Pikes, I got a small punzi of 42 centimeters. And the call was made by our guide, Frana van Zee, who's the master in this area. Guys, please move. The water looking very nice. The Sequoia Mont. That's the Sequoia Mont. And we made our way down here. We've got two other anglers, Gino and Adrian. And we came to try here for the blue rays on this beach. Should get the small small ducky and maybe a cow, but the water looking very, very tasty. I think as the water goes down and lowers down, we should get a lot more bites in this place. So it's a gamble we took. Hopefully it pays out.
My name is Anton. I fish for Virginia. It's a juvenile smoothhound, female. Let's go and see what it does. It measures.
How's that for a bite? I walked down 500 meters to get my cooler box, holding the rod stand, and on my way back I just see the rod take off. I had a 500 meter run to my rod. How's it, guys? Lovely shed. Yeah, nice little bronzy. Let's get it measured now. Male 85. Yeah, guys, lines up, final day. Better conditions today, and it was an honor to fish as a guest angler against the Free State team. Some very, very, very accomplished anglers. I actually enjoyed it. It was good meeting up with old friends again, and I would do it again next year. And if you ever get a chance to fish against these provinces as a guest, please take the opportunity and go for it. Wonderful, wonderful guys from the inland provinces. Very, very strong anglers. It was a blast. I had a very, very good day. I got some nice fish. Guys, thank you to Free State for inviting me, always having me as a guest. It's always a pleasure to fish with you guys, whether we win or lose. I always win fishing with you guys. Fantastic bunch of guys. And for our captain, our chairman, guys, you all are the best. Yeah, guys, that's the end of the 2019 Free State Champs. Well done to our team Blue Waters, who fished very well and took the gold. We even won the anyway. We won a lot of the individual prizes. Keith for number of species, number of fish. Adrian, Sportsman of the Year, top angler in 3 years. Fantastic. It was an awesome tournament. I'll be back next year to kick Eugene's ass. And yeah, see you guys in Durban for the diamonds and the sandies.
The National Coronavirus Command Council has decided to enforce a nationwide lockdown.
That's not what they really said.
You ready?
We'll see.
That's a yes or no question.
Yes.
Are you sure?
No.
Huh? What? We're gonna die. Cool. Hit it. First things first. The rules are simple.
Hey, what's rule number 1? Party? No, not party.
Whoopsie, I forgot the seatbelt rule.
Oh, so she knows the rules?
I told her just a few of them. Well, now it's a party. Awesome. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Let me give you some really good advice.
Spill it.
Smile and put on a happy face.
Okay, we've broken a lot of rules.
You guys want to party like rock stars. You're all insane.
You having a good time?
Yeah.
I can't stop the. 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 Nothing I can see but you when you dance, dance, dance. Feel good, good creeping up on you, so just dance, dance, dance. All those things I shouldn't do, but you dance, dance, dance. Ain't nobody leaving, so keep dancing. Everybody say.
Showcasing the best of British talent, the best photographers around the country.
It's a great array of really talented artists out there, and it's just great to see.
It gives an opportunity to people from all over the world to showcase our portfolio and our imagery.
Welcome to the second British Photography Awards. I am in awe of what you photographers do.
It's a real honour, so thank you very much.
Wow, guys, what an incredibly special honour. The royal story has a unique and incredible power to capture the imagination of a global audience, which strikes me as an incredible asset for the country.
It means the world. It's the best.
Hey Mark.
All good? Good to see you.
Welcome to Casa Seat.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Is to Casa. Mark, I want to show you a really special secret place here in Casa Seat. It's the secret room here in Casa Seat. This is where our designers work. But I'd like to introduce you to probably one of our most important designers who's making a real big impact on our cars. It's Francesca Sangalli, head of color and trim at Cupra.
And this is where you collect everything and you later on decide, or is it,
Yes.
is it what you already decided?
For instance, we get a lot of inspiration, as I said, no, from also the structural bodies, or that comes from nature, or the rocks and something like that. And all these elements we put them together. Then obviously there are all the other topic of sustainability and using
More
in
and more
our
important,
case,
of course.
this is very important. It's very important. Above all, when you talk about materials, the sustainability topics is something very important. We did a collaboration with Sequel, that is just, again, another company very close by to here. So it was kind of natural, no, to get together and creating something
You know
for
what
the
these
car.
guys do? They take the plastic bottles and recycle it into pellets, no?
Yes. And then they use it to create the material, the base material for the textile. So our bucket seat, the standard, that is coming standard with the Born, is having this material.
So hopefully we can use it for the whole car one day.
No, thank you, Francesca. So Mark, you've seen now where the inspiration came from the interior of the car, but I'm sure you want to see the rest of the car. So I think we go downstairs now, and I'll show you the new Cupra Born. Thank you, Francesca.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
See you.
Wayne.
Ciao.
Bye. See you.
Well, here it is.
Yeah, here it is. Finally, I'm looking forward to it.
Your electric car. It's been really well received in the market. I mean, it's phenomenal, the reception, the press and everything. And I was actually in Berlin a couple of weeks ago, and we won our prize
Well
for the
deserved,
car.
no? Well deserved.
I hope so. We won a golden steering wheel for the Cupra Born being the best electric car in Germany, which is an amazing recognition. I think. And the color, is this your color? Blue, is it your color?
My son is super interested in it, so he will be happy that it's blue.
Great.
And let's see how the future will be. No, maybe you come along with a pink car or a green or.
So here's your car.
Thank you.
Take a seat. See whether you fit.
I guess so, no?
Yeah.
Fit.
And in terms of performance, obviously the car has e-boost, so it'll get you from 0 to 50 in around 2.5 seconds.
I will try this.
You've tried it, particularly
To
from
50.
0 to 50.
To just to 50.
The
of
0
course.
to 100 is just over 6 seconds, but obviously if you do that in Barcelona, then you're going to get a ticket. So it'd be great to get your feedback and find out what you think
I
of
will
the
tell
car.
you. Yeah, 100%. Thank you so
And
much.
I hope you enjoy it.
Speak soon.
In Las Vegas, it is always on. From showtime to go time, to play that back in slow-mo time. It's 5 square miles and then some of heart racing, pulse pounding, barely catch your breath time. So if you're ready for the spotlight, come ready to play. Because there's only one place. You are never on the sidelines. Las Vegas.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
The number you have dialed has been changed.
Welcome back in our studio, and in today's news,